Today, you'll uncover a paradox of war, how America treated its captured enemies not with brutality, but with bread, ice cream, and even soda pop. By the end, you'll see why many German soldiers left prison camps questioning everything they thought they knew about the enemy, about propaganda, and even about freedom. So here's the question. If you were a captured soldier, starving and beaten down by war, would you cling to your loyalty or take the bread, sip the Coke, and embrace survival? Drop your answer below. Winter 1944. Across Europe, millions of men wasted away in prison camps. Hunger was a weapon, starvation a strategy. But inside American camps for captured German soldiers, the story flipped upside down. Instead of skeletal figures, you found men eating meat, butter, even sweets. The same nation that firebombed their cities handed them plates piled high with food. It was war turned on its head. Survival here wasn't about enduring cruelty. It was about being shocked by kindness. For the first time, German soldiers discovered a different kind of battlefield, one fought with bread, sugar, and abundance. News traveled quickly through the barbed wire. Rumors spread of a strange drink, dark, sweet, and bubbling. Prisoners whispered that it was called Coca-Cola. To men who had only seen propaganda declaring America a land of poverty and chaos, the idea was absurd. Yet the bottles appeared, passed from guard to prisoner, cold in the hand and fizzing against the tongue. This wasn't torture, it was temptation. The same soldiers who once shouted "Heil Hitler" now lined up for refills. A soft drink was undoing years of ideology. Sometimes the most disarming weapon isn't a bullet, it's a taste of the enemy's world. Imagine biting into white bread so soft it collapses in your hand. For German soldiers raised on dark, coarse loaves, this was more alien than American tanks. Camp kitchens served meat, vegetables, and sometimes even ice cream. Prisoners who expected cruelty instead gained weight. One diary entry recalled, "We thought it must be poisoned." No army feeds its enemy this way, but the food wasn't poison, it was abundance. The United States wanted prisoners to carry stories of American prosperity back to Europe. This shocked men who had been told America was a land of greed and chaos. Each meal became a weapon against Nazi lies. In war, perception is as powerful as artillery. Feed a man well, and he begins to question the cause he once fought for. Here's the ironic twist. Coca-Cola, banned in wartime Germany, flowed in U.S. camps. To German soldiers, the brown fizz wasn't just sweet, it was forbidden fruit. Some prisoners of war drank cautiously, expecting sickness. Instead, they discovered refreshment. For many, it was their first taste of mass consumer culture, a drink that symbolized freedom, factories, and the unstoppable machine of American industry. Coca-Cola wasn't a luxury, it was a lesson. If America could spare soda for prisoners, how powerful must its economy be? One POW later said, "In that glass, I saw why we would lose the war." Small comforts can crush big illusions. A bottle of Coke carried more propaganda power than 1,000 leaflets. In captivity, German soldiers faced long empty hours. Some brooded, others broke. But many turned scraps of metal and spare parts into something extraordinary, an ice cream machine. With it, they churned out cold, sweet treats in the middle of a prison camp. Diaries describe men laughing together as they licked cones, forgetting the war for a fleeting moment. These were not hardened ideologues anymore, but young men clinging to joy. The enemy could strip away their freedom, but not their creativity. Survival wasn't just about bread and meat. It was about inventing happiness where none should exist. The camps became more than cages. Behind the fences, German prisoners rebuilt a miniature world. They formed orchestras with borrowed instruments, staged plays in makeshift theaters, even ran classes in math and languages. Guards watched in disbelief as culture blossomed in captivity. To the soldiers, these acts were not hobbies, but a rebellion of the spirit. They proved that dignity could outlive defeat. Even stripped of weapons and uniforms, they forged a society inside the wire. It was a reminder that humans will always try to rebuild life, even when the world outside is in ruins. Many German prisoners were sent to work on American farms. They picked cotton under the sun, shoveled hay in dusty barns, and harvested corn by hand. For the local farmers, it was surreal. The men who only months earlier had worn the enemy's uniform were now laboring side by side with them. Some farmers' children even played with the prisoners during breaks, watched carefully by guards. Fear slowly gave way to familiarity. The propaganda image of a monstrous enemy dissolved into something far simpler: tired young men who looked no different from their own sons. War built walls, but farm work quietly tore them down. Back in Germany, the Coca-Cola company had been cut off from supplies. To survive, managers created a strange new drink from apple scraps and whey. They called it Fanta. Civilians in the Reich sipped this improvised substitute, while their captured soldiers in America drank the real thing, ice-cold Coca-Cola. The irony was cruel. Families at home endured shortages and hunger, while men in enemy hands tasted abundance. A bottle of soda became more than refreshment. It was a symbol of the gulf between two worlds. In war, luxury sometimes appeared in the unlikeliest places, behind barbed wire. For many POWs, America was the first time they saw racial diversity. On the farms and in the camps, they worked alongside black laborers, Mexican migrants, and Asian Americans. Back in Germany, Nazi propaganda had painted these groups as inferior, but here they witnessed skill, humor, and resilience. Some prisoners admitted in letters that their worldview cracked. The ideology they had been fed did not match the reality in front of them. In captivity, they were not the master race. They were simply workers, sharing sweat under the same sun. It was a quiet, devastating education. Imagine yourself as a soldier captured by the enemy. One day you're ordered to dig trenches in frozen mud. The next you're offered ice cream and a bottle of Coke. Would you embrace that small kindness, or reject it as poison from the enemy? That choice could decide your sanity. What about you? Would you have survived this strange captivity? Tell us below. And while you're here, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. More untold stories of war are waiting for you. Some POW camps became classrooms. Captured German officers organized lectures on engineering, literature, even philosophy. Others learned English from American guards, trading words for cigarettes. In one camp, prisoners built a functioning theater, complete with painted backdrops and stage lights powered by makeshift wiring. War had stripped them of freedom, but not imagination. Ironically, captivity became a place of learning and cultural exchange. Men who once marched into battle now quoted Shakespeare or solved calculus problems under guard towers. Knowledge became their quiet rebellion, and then there was the paradox of food. While German civilians back home starved, POWs in America were sometimes fed so well that they gained weight. Reports reached the Third Reich, sparking outrage. How could the enemy treat their captured soldiers better than their own homeland? The contrast was brutal. Families begged for bread in Berlin, while their sons in Kansas were eating beef stew and drinking Coca-Cola. It was a cruel reminder. Sometimes the defeated tasted comfort that the loyal never did. One evening in a camp in Texas, guards and POWs gathered around a radio. They listened together as a baseball game crackled through the static. For a moment, uniforms didn't matter. The Germans laughed at the commentary, even cheering for players they didn't know. Guards passed popcorn through the fence, and the prisoners shared songs in return. War had forced them into opposite roles, but humanity slipped through the cracks. In that instant, the battlefield was forgotten, replaced by the universal language of play and music. Christmas in captivity told another story. German prisoners built makeshift Christmas trees from scraps of wood, while American guards donated tinsel and candles. Carols drifted across barbed wire, mixing German hymns with American songs. Some guards even joined the celebration, breaking army rations of chocolate to share. These moments were fragile, temporary, but unforgettable. They proved a chilling irony. In captivity, enemies could find peace together, something the free world was still struggling to achieve. Behind the laughter and shared meals, another truth hid in plain sight: propaganda. The U.S. treated German POWs well, not only out of the Geneva Convention, but also as a message. If Germans wrote home about Coca-Cola, ice cream, and humane treatment, it undermined Nazi claims of American cruelty. Diaries confirm this. One POW marveled, "We live better here than at the front." For Washington, kindness was a weapon. Comfort itself became psychological warfare, softening morale thousands of miles away. Yet not all camps mirrored this paradise. Some facilities overflowed with prisoners, where rations shrank and tempers snapped. There were escapes, violent clashes, even executions for those suspected of betraying fellow Germans. Still, the contrast was undeniable. The same war that burned cities to ash could, in another corner, serve ice cream to the men who once bombed them. It exposed a paradox that soldiers wrestled with. Were they enemies or just men trapped in different uniforms? As the war drew closer to its bloody end, many POWs quietly admitted a terrifying thought. They no longer wanted to go home. The camps, with steady meals and relative safety, felt more secure than a collapsing Reich. Some feared the ruins waiting for them in Germany more than the barbed wire around them in America. Survival had reshaped loyalty. For a soldier who once swore to fight to the death, choosing Coca-Cola over Hitler was the ultimate surrender. When liberation finally came, many carried back stories their countrymen couldn't believe. Tales of baseball games, canned peaches, and American cigarettes sounded like fantasy in a nation of rubble. Some never spoke of it, ashamed at the comfort they enjoyed while comrades starved. Yet others told the truth, that in the strangest twist of war, their enemies fed them better than their leaders ever did. That irony lingered long after the last POW ship sailed home. Picture Christmas Eve, 1944. In one American camp, guards allowed the German prisoners to sing carols. Their voices carried through the night, Stille Nacht, the same hymn their enemies sang back home. For a brief hour, the war disappeared. Men divided by uniforms were united by melody. In that fragile harmony, it became clear: steel and bullets had less power than song. Survival sometimes depended not on food or fences, but on remembering humanity.